Hello all, welcome to part 2 of our video where we talk about arrays. So in part 1 of the video I showed you how we build a single dimension array, and as I had mentioned, we can create arrays with any number of dimensions. But for the sake of this class, let's only look at two-dimensional array. Now 2D array is important because I've given you a quiz on that, and it's also required in your assignment 4. So let me go back to Paint and try to draw a picture here just to show you what a 2D array looks like. So here I'm going to create a 3 by 3 array, which is actually going to look quite similar to a tic-tac-toe board. So as with arrays, as I showed you with single dimension arrays, we use a combination of a string literal that represents the variable name and an index, which is a number that shows where the value lies. So with single dimension arrays, if you do A0, A1, A2, it just keeps pointing to different memory locations where the value is stored. Same concept applies for two-dimensional arrays, except we write the arrays in a different way. So for example, if the variable name of the array is A, we will write it like this. This means an array location at 0, 0. And let me actually also write the location name here. So this cell will be row 1, column 1, sorry, row 0, column 0. Oops, yep. And now I'm going to have row 0, column 1. Now this will be row 0, column 2. This will be row 1, column 0. This will be row 1, column 1. This is going to be row 1, column 2. Similarly, this will be here in the bottom will be row 2, column 0. This one will be row 2, column 1. And this will be row 2, column 2. So when I represent A00, 0, this actually is representing the value over here. Now let me write another, let's write a few more values like A 0, 1, A 1, 1, let's write A 1, so just giving you an idea what it's looking like. So A01 is going to represent this. Let me actually reduce the size here. A01 is this, A11 is this, A10 will be this, A12 is going to be this, and this will be A11, this will be A20, A21, A22. So if you are representing a two-dimensional structure like a matrix, it's always good to use two-dimensional arrays because they make it a little easier to understand. Now, of course, you could also use a one-dimensional array, have this as index 0, this one as index 1, this as 2, this one as 3, this one 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But then it will be difficult to figure out which value do you want to read. So if you are representing a 2D structure, always use two-dimensional arrays. Now let's go back into code and see how we declare a 2D array. So just like we are declaring a single dimensional array like this, we are going to define a two-dimensional array by adding another square bracket. So here I'm going to create an array of size 3 by 3 and then just give size here. and give this size 3. So what we are defining here is essentially called as jagged arrays in C#. Uh, but I think jagged arrays will be a little bit more of an advanced concept right now, so let's keep it simple and stick with simple arrays. So the way you define simple arrays is you will create the same square bracket and add a comma, and if you have to declare a size of 3, you can declare this as 3 comma 3, which means C is a two-dimensional array of value 3 comma 3. Now in the example I gave you in Paint, I just represented it like this, like a jagged array form, but just add a comma here to represent the location. The locations they are representing is the same. Alright, so now we have declared a three-dimensional array. Let's look at an example now. So this is what we did in the previous example that we did yesterday, where we are trying to highlight what arrays do. So we had reduced this many number of lines to this. Let's look at a different use case for an array, is like printing a tic-tac-toe board. So I'm going to first initialize the tic-tac-toe board with values of 0. So what we need to do is create two loop variables. So what we'll do is create a variable for the row to iterate through the row, and then we'll create one to iterate through the columns. So we are going to say row oops, I am using row here and then I'm using column. Not good. Alright, now we will just add another loop here. Just copy this loop and just replace this by I column. So remember, we are setting all the values in this tic-tac-toe board, which is a three-dimensional array, to 0, and then I just use my C variable. Just give I row comma I column is equal to, we'll add a string 0, or just call it O. Alright, now we have assigned the tic-tac-toe board. Now here what you see, there's a for loop inside a for loop. This is also called as a nested loop, so I'll just add a column here, sorry, a comment. Alright, now let's go ahead . So actually I had declared this integer as an int, but since I'm printing a tic-tac-toe, let's declare a string. So again, arrays can be declared for any variable type. Now let's print the let me also remove these comments, we don't need them anymore. Alright, so now we are going to print the tic-tac-toe board. Just copy this same loop again, and rather than assigning the value, you simply print the value out. Console dot write line, and we'll just print C. Row comma column is a better representation for the array, representing a two-dimensional array, but you can also use column comma row, whichever you are comfortable with. But I've seen row and row first and the column later in the second index is the most standard nomenclature that we use. Alright, let's go and run this program. Sorry, I forgot to add a console.read. So it's printing all zeros, but this is printing one by one, right? This is not looking good like a tic-tac-toe board. So what's the issue here? So as you can see, we are doing console.writeLine. So remember, with console.writeLine, any element you print, it goes to the next line. So I'm going to change this to console.write. This is for each column. So what we need to do is actually print each row and print different columns. So I'm just going to add an extra space after this, and you'll see why. Oh, actually, let me do this. Let me not add the space. That will make it a little easier to see. Now when we exit out of this loop, and again I forgot to add these braces. Whenever there's a single line I don't add them, but for easy explanation it's better to add it. And then we will do a console.write line. Or actually we'll add that later. Just let's see how this runs. So now we're not adding anything. Now everything is printed in one line. This is also what we don't want this, and as you can see there's no space between them. So let's add a space first. After each line is printed, we'll just add this. Let's run this. Now values are coming with a space. Now we need to go to the next line, and after printing 3 columns in each row, it should go to the next line. There we go. So this is printing like a board. Now let's change some values. So everything has been initialized to 0. Let's change some values to x, and let's give some hard-coded values. So 1, 1. Now we are going for row at index 1 and column at index 1. Can you take a guess which value this will print? Let's see. This should be in the center of the board, and you can see an X over there. Let's change another value. So we are going to row 1, column 2. So the row 1, column 2. So remember, everything is starting from 0. So that's why this is 1 and it's not 2. So this is row 0, 1, 2. So this way you can easily represent a tic-tac-toe board or any matrix type structure in a 2-dimensional array. Similarly, if you have more complex representations, you can use multiple dimensions array. So you can keep on adding commas here and add an array. So this array, for example, has 4 dimensions, and obviously I'm getting an error here, so let's restore it back. And run the code again, just make sure this is working. So this is working as before, and this is how you create an array, assign values to it, and then print it out, a 2-dimensional array. And I'll also upload this code where it will be accessible. Alright, till then, if you have any questions or concerns, please let me know, or you can leave in the comment.